Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Livy, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 4 Part 2. And whoa, is there a lot to unpack in these two episodes. So if you guys have been following Stranger Things Season 4, you probably already knew that the Part 2 is going to be a little bit smaller. It's just two episodes. That's episode 8 and 9. Episode 8 is called Papa and 9 is called Piggyback. And I was thinking they may do something and make episode 9, the finale, a little bit longer than the other episodes, which I'm really glad that they did. Episode 8 is about an hour and a half, and episode 9 is 2 hours and 22 minutes. And so much stuff happens in these episodes. So if you guys have not watched this season or you haven't watched part 2, go ahead and click out of this video if you don't want any spoilers, because we're going to be diving into all the exciting things that happen. Okay, now that all the spoiler-free people have left, guys, these two episodes were so jam-packed, and I feel like I'm not even going to remember half of what happened, but I'm going to try to kind of go through the chronological order of events that take place and then kind of tell you some of my favorite parts of it. And where did we leave off in episode 7? I guess kind of where we picked up in 8 is Nancy, Steve, and Robin, Dustin and Eddie are all going to go back to the Upside Down, and they're making a plan of attack to attack Vecna while he is in a different state of mind trying to get to Maxine. So those 5 go into the Upside Down, and Eddie and Dustin are in charge of distracting the bats that protect Vecna in the Upside Down, and the other 3 are in charge of going and finding him and pretty much setting fire to him. They're going to Molotov cocktail his ass into oblivion. So what they realize early on in the episode is that Vecna is weakest while he is trying to infiltrate somebody else's mind and kill them. And Maxine decides to kind of become that target, as he's already had her on his radar. So her, Dustin, and Erica go to Vecna's childhood home to kind of lure him into taking Maxine so that his physical body in the Upside Down is vulnerable. At the same time, we pop back over to what's happening with 11. She is still in the lab in Nina, Nevada, and all the boys are going to go see her. So Jonathan, the stoner, Mike, and Will are all on their way to go find where she is. They're driving that pizza van to go find her in Nina, Nevada, and she wants to leave the facility because she sees what's happening to Maxine. She's able to kind of shine and see what's going on with Maxine and see what's going to happen to Hawkins. Oh my gosh, I left out a huge part. Okay, back up really quick. So I forgot that we see so much happens. I forgot that when we start the episode, Nancy is still in the Upside Down and Vecna has captured her. And instead of killing her, he shows her everything that's going to happen to Hawkins and the rest of the world so that she can go report back and kind of scare everyone. And while she's reporting back, Eleven's able to travel in her mind and see Maxine and everything that's happening and the conversations going on. So even though 11 is still in the lab, she knows what's happening in Hawkins. So she tries to leave the lab, but Papa won't let her. At the same time that the boys are coming to visit her, they can't find the location, but they see a lot of military trucks hunting down the location, and they're able to find out where 11 is. Unfortunately, the military do break into the lab, and Papa tries to steal 11. He ends up getting shot down and killed, and she uses her forces to break down the helicopter that they're in, where they're trying to snipe her from, and ends up killing all of them, and she leaves with the boys. Then the kind of one of the last storylines, there's so many storylines going on that it's hard to jump back and forth and kind of keep the correct order of what's happening. But what's going on in the Soviet Union, Russia, is that Hopper and Murray and Joyce and Yuri, they all escape from the jail, only to realize that they actually need to go back because there's demogorgons everywhere. The Russian government has been experimenting on them, and so they have a whole army of like comatose demogorgons. And because they realize they're not going to be able to make it back to Hawkins in time and find out what's going on with 11 and save everybody, their best bet is to kind of channel what's going on in Soviet Union Russia and go back to the jail, go back to the penitentiary, collect all the Demogorgons in one area and then set fire to them. So that's kind of their game plan. And in the long run, the person that was supposed to help them with the airplanes, that was always kind of a little cheapskate and like money hungry the whole time, ends up getting his helicopter working and decides to save the day and fly them back home to Hawkins. So jumping back over to Nancy and that whole group, they are in the Upside Down, and Steve, Nancy, and Robin get captured by Vecna through the vines. They kind of get strung up on the different trees, I guess. And at the same time, Eddie decides to be a hero, and instead of running away from all the bats and leaving the Upside Down because Dustin's already left, he turns back around and tries to buy them a little bit more time. So he ends up kind of sacrificing himself and being the true just 80s rock star hero that Eddie Munson is, and ends up being killed by the demon bat things. And honestly, it was a really sad moment. I liked the moments between Dustin and Eddie, and even at the end between Dustin and Eddie's father. Just saying how much Dustin enjoyed Eddie's personality, how good of a person that Eddie was, how sweet he was to the town, even though he was an outcast and they all believed that he was part of some like devil cult named Hellfire Club. But those moments are really charming and just really sweet to see Dustin's interaction between Eddie and then his father as well. At the same time that Maxine is kind of being bait for Vecna, Lucas is overseeing her while she's going into the Upside Down mentally, and that stupid jock shows up. I'm so glad he didn't have a bigger role. I mean, I'm sure he's a great actor, but it was just a typical 80s jock role where this guy's just a sociopath. Like, he's crazy, and you can't speak any sense into him, and Lucas is trying to tell him, like, we can't wake her up. Something needs to happen. The whole city's in danger and she needs to be asleep right now. You can't disturb her. And this jock is just threatening to shoot Lucas if he doesn't wake Maxine up. So they end up tackling for a while. And during this whole time, Maxine is being hunted by Vecna. And what happens when 11 goes with the guys trying to get back to Hawkins in time? They can't find a way to physically get there, but she has the idea that she's just going to go into like a sensory deprivation tank, a makeshift one, and enter Maxine's mind and fight Vecna from there. So the stoner guy decides to have the grand idea that they'll stop at one of the stoner pizza shops that is part of the chain that he works at, and they use one of those deep freezers that they use for dough. They fill it with water and a bunch of salt and use that as a sensory deprivation tank for Elle. So during that time, she's able to go and infiltrate in Maxine's mind and physically fight Vecna. So the three of them are there, and she's doing a good job fighting him, and he kind of regains strength and ends up putting Elle all wrapped up, kind of hung up, saying, I want you to watch as I kill Maxine. He also at that time reveals that he had an epiphany when he was sent to the Upside Down by Elle, that he kind of learned his true powers and really what he's supposed to do and take over the world and unleash what's in the Upside Down to the rest of the world. And we get a glimpse of this kind of finger blob thing coming down and giving him its powers. And it's like a black blob that has lots of tentacles coming down. And that's important because I'll get to it, but the last scene, that's important. So Elle is all wrapped up in these tentacles, and she can still hear Mike because he's, kneeling next to her while she's in the sensory deprivation tank. And he ends up confessing his love to her. Early on in the episode, Will talks about, you're the heart of our group. He says that to Mike, and Mike ends up using that and just expressing his love to Elle, how everybody needs her, that she is their hero, that he loves her and he doesn't say it enough. And through that kind of emotional 80s moment, she's able to regain strength and fight Vecna. So she takes him by surprise. And at the same time that she's doing that in the Upside Down, in Maxine's mind, Nancy, Robin, and Steve are all kind of broken free of the tentacles that were keeping them strung up. And so they find Vecna's physical body in the Upside Down, where he is kind of like a spider in a web, and they end up throwing their Molotov cocktails at him. So he catches fire. We kind of learn that he is hurt, but not dead. And we learn that by, you hear the clock again, and Maxine is she's not in a coma. She's paralyzed and she can't see when she comes to with Lucas. And she ends up dying. And while Ella's still in her mind, she's able to kind of bring her back, give her a little bit of life. But since Maxine has been dead for over a minute, the episode does end with Maxine being in a coma. So we know that Maxine is obviously hurt. She hasn't come to at the end of this season. Lucas and Erica are both in the room, the hospital room, with Maxine, and it really breaks my heart. Maxine was definitely a superhero and a really big part of this season, and I loved her entire storyline, and I'm sure it's not over. So I'm excited that she's still alive. I was going to be so butthurt if they killed off Maxine. Like, they killed off Eddie, and that was really tough for me. Like, I feel like if you enjoy the show, you get emotionally attached to these characters. So anyways, the whole gang of Mike and Jonathan and all them and Elle end up making it back to Hawkins, where they find out that all the stuff that happened with Vecna has created essentially an earthquake. That's what everybody thinks it is. The town is in despair, just rubble. They go to the school and bring blankets, and there are people, serving PB&Js and trying to really just get everybody together. But at the same time, while they try to hide Elle in Hopper's old cabin, Hopper and Joyce show up, and it's just a really great reunion to see everyone together. This whole season, we have not seen Hopper and Elle together or interact or really have any sweet moments. Really, the only moments is when Elle is talking about Hopper as her hero in her little display at school. So this was the first one we got to see that kind of father-daughter bond again. And it's just so sweet. The chemistry they have as actors is really heartwarming, and I can't get enough of them. So I'm excited that the whole group is back together again, and we get to see Jonathan and Nancy talk things out a little bit. I will say it's just so cringe, and I know that the writers do that on purpose, but Nancy's kind of like, Steve's a good guy now, and Jonathan's like, okay, and then she asks him what's going on with his acceptance letter for college. And he's like, I just haven't received it yet. So their storyline is still continuing where they're not really being totally honest with each other. And the thing is, I don't want them to break up. I do think Nancy and Steve have a really cute relationship, but I also love Jonathan and Nancy. Maybe because they're together in real life, so it just works. Like, it looks like it works. But I'll be really interested to see where the relationship goes. And some of the most significant moments of the last few minutes in episode 9 is that Will turns to Jonathan and he says that he can still feel Vecna. That now that Will's in Hawkins, he can feel the power that Vecna has. And although Vecna's injured, this isn't over. So the last scene we get from this whole amazing, amazing season is Elle, Joyce, Will, Mike, Hopper, and Jonathan are standing outside of Hopper's cabin, and it starts to snow. And they start to walk kind of towards an opening in the woods and see that black tentacle, like blob, dispersing its tentacles all over the town. And things are just starting to die left and right. So we're getting a season 5. I mean, I'm sure we are. We have to be. There's no way we're not. I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but I remember a couple of years ago hearing rumors that this would be the last season, that all the kids have moved on to other projects and this isn't really their priority anymore. And it doesn't feel like that. It feels like we're getting a season 5 because shit's not over in Hawkins. Is it ever really? I think what I will love about hopefully season 5 has this element that everyone's in the same town and kind of stick together. I loved the different storylines in this season. It was so great, but it is nice to have the reunion of everyone together and be able to see all these characters interact as a group again. So this is hands down by far my favorite season of Stranger Things. My best friend actually just watched Stranger Things season 3. She was a little bit behind and she said, it's so amazing, I love it. I'm like, girl, you haven't seen anything yet, because season 4 blows season 3 out of the water. It was so good, and that's not to diss on the other seasons. It was just that great. It was my favorite season. There are so many amazing elements. I love that they broke it up into 2 parts because there is a ton going on. There's a ton of action. There's a ton of storyline development. So I think to be all in one big chunk, it's almost too much. I think that we needed time to process what happened in part 1 of season 4 to get ready for part 2 and kind of the giant war that happens between Vecna and Elle. So, love this season. If you guys liked it, please comment below what your favorite part was. And I actually only made this review 15 minutes. That's pretty good for me because I thought I was gonna ramble on for a while. But if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe down below. And I'm sure I'll do another review for season 5 when it comes out. Hopefully we won't have to wait as long. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of get this storyline moving, get the actors all together and shoot it so it could come out in the next year and a half would be great. But this gave me a lot to chew on. Season 4 gave me a lot to chew on for the next year or so. So I was really excited to get to watch it. And thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I will catch you in the next one. Bye.